Laws Decoded. I was being over-ambitious in trying to schedule her talk at 10 a.m. So we had a few students who came in the morning, perhaps at the request of some seniors. But I think you should also, in a sense, engage with visitors when they come with their own respective experiences and backgrounds. So I request Ms. Napinai to just offer us some thoughts about her book. And if you have some questions, we can directly engage them.
Thank you, Professor Chauhan. I don't want to stand between you and freedom, right? In fact, yesterday at Manthan, I was giving this session about liberty. I'm a true believer. So we'll keep it short. Just wanted to know, because the earlier speaker started his session about, by emphasizing his lack of technological prowess. And here I am immediately thereafter to speak about technology laws, right? I had a very interesting short session with some of your compatriots on their exposure to technology laws and to technology per se. So a quick round of questions here before we move forward. So how many of you all are familiar with the concept? What am I here to talk about when I say technology laws? Any thoughts, any ideas on that? Exactly. Everybody thinks it's about the Information Technology Act. No, I'm glad you at least started the ball rolling, so thank you for that. Is that all? Why not? By the way, I loved your question in the earlier session. It was bang on, but I thought you moved away from the main aspect which you started, which is about you have an aspiration to grow into a particular role if you're choosing litigation. So how well-founded would that aspiration be, and how capable is the system to handle the aspirations of youth like you? I thought that would be your question, but you sort of moved away. I can, I can tell you that the earlier session can make even a veteran like me start wondering what I'm doing in litigation, right? So let's not even go there. Let's see if we can finish off on a much more fun or positive note today, right? So yeah, if I'm saying it's not just about the Information Technology Act, why am I saying that? You know, we're all, I was watching today, both physically what I could see at the front rows and also through the video conferencing facility, that every single one of you has been engaged in some manner or the other, including you asking your question through using technology. You have all been engaged in some activity related to technology over the last 1 year, 1 hour also, right? Am I correct in assuming that? Right? So how much has technology taken over our life? How much has technology become life for us? Can you all, when was the last time you disconnected yourself from any form of technology? Right? If you were to do it now, it would be for the first time in forever, right? So there was this person who decided to conduct this experiment in London, and he said, okay, so I'm going to see how long I can live without using technology. He said, I am just not going to touch that, computer or any device containing computing. So it's not just a computer that he was talking about. Any guesses on how long he could last without doing that? Few minutes? Yeah, right? So he tried to avoid all the computing devices at home, because you get up and you want your first cup of coffee. And today, computing hits you even at that stage, right? Then you want to have a bath. Your heater probably has computing. Your air conditioning has computing. Your car has computing. So he said, okay, I could probably avoid all this. And he lasted at least a few hours as long as he reached the London Metro. The minute he reached the London Metro and he had to use the smart card, there went his experiment, right? So this is how clued in we are to technology. And as lawyers of the future, this is a world that you're going to be entering. And it's an amazing and a fascinating world of the legal aspects of this technology pervasion and how it's going to impact us. In fact, after the last session, I was initially thinking, okay, so how much, attention spans are you going to have for another session? But the way the last session ended, even I was convinced that you needed this session. If there were a lot of aspirants out there for litigation, the last session may not have particularly helped you all in deciding to go that way. And if you need to know where else you can go, so here is an alternative, right, of technology laws. So I'm not for a moment saying don't go the litigation way. I love litigation. I cannot live without it. But I'm just saying that this is something you people have to take into account as a career option because it's so specialized. It's so precise in its application that a lot of American and European practitioners today do not just practice cyber laws. Today, particularly in Europe, you have the maximum number of practitioners in one field of cyber law. Can you imagine which one that is? Any guesses? Not IPR. Like something which we are still not even coming to terms with in terms of a law or a proper regulation to give us that protection. I just gave you a kind of hint also. It is in data protection. Data protection laws have become so niche there that there are practitioners who do only that. And this is so under the current regime. In May 2018, you have the GDPR coming in, which is the General Data Protection Regulation. And after that, all these practitioners who are early players into this niche are saying that they're going to be so busy they're not going to have time to look at anything else. So this is where the world is going. I was mentioning in the earlier session about antitrust cases and how they grew and created a niche for lawyers in foreign lands. So these are all just indications of things to come. There are so many aspects of cyber which are still remaining to be explored. India is barely taking fledgling steps in that. Today we have this spurt of cases in the Supreme Court from Prajwala versus Union of India, in which I'm appearing as amicus, to the WhatsApp case, to Aadhaar. So suddenly it feels like every court is hearing something about cyber. Yesterday or the day before, the courts have talked about cryptocurrencies and asked the government, is there any way you can stop cryptocurrencies from being used for criminal activities? And if I had been there at the time, I would have given them a very short and simple answer. No, you can't, right? Because the basic rule of law is you regulate that which can be regulated. You will pass an order which can be enforced. If by its very nature, cryptocurrencies are being misused for criminal purposes or in the darknet, etc., how are you going to stop misuse? The very word misuse presupposes that it is being used contrary to what is permissible, right? So therefore it's impossible to regulate as a general process. You could probably try in terms of improving enforcement. So when I am talking about technology laws, and this was the exploration I started with my book, and I can tell you I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was to explore this interplay of general laws with special laws. The interplay of technology in the application of general laws, of how it has changed, for instance, general crime into a specialized or niche criminal activity. We're not talking about the niche law here, it's about the niche criminal here. Today's criminal if you look at every case that's coming up, and I can give you some really interesting examples. One of the most hard-hitting cases from about a couple of years back was of Ashley Madison. Have you all heard of the site? If you think it sounds like a brand, it's not. It was a site which was for having an affair. Okay? So this site was hacked by a hacker who said that it was moral policing. He said, I'm not very happy with what you're doing. I don't think you should encourage people to have affairs. So I'm asking you to take down the site now, failing which we will be disclosing all the information about all the people who have used your site in a 24-hour window or something like that. They thought they rubbished this claim, and they thought it was just a threat, and they didn't do anything about it. And today, not only are divorce lawyers very busy, but Ashley Madison itself, the site itself, is being sued for breach of data and confidentiality. So, this is the reach to which it can go. There's another case, again from the UK, and they talk about, and I'm using the word talk here because it was the TalkTalk breach. BT Telecom and TalkTalk and all these telcos were violated. There was a hack. What happened as an outcome was not just loss of several million pounds, but unfortunately of several thousand jobs. The person who conducted the hack was a teenager, 16-year-old if I'm not mistaken. And when he was asked, why did you do it? He said, because it seemed like a challenge. I didn't know what the consequence of this would be. Who knew that people would lose their job? I mean, they all claim they can't be hacked. It was fun to do it. So, this is the difficulty you have today in dealing with a completely different demographic, a completely different mentally evolved criminal. So when you're talking about a field of law also, therefore, you have to look towards the younger demographic to understand this domain. And because without understanding the domain, you cannot deal with the cases that arise from this. And I'm seeing that, in fact, in Prajwala itself. Unfortunately, Prajwala deals with a very, very serious issue of